Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this postmortem of my Blitz game number 594. I had the white pieces, and my opponent played, I played e4, my opponent played c5, Sicilian defense, and after knight of 3 played e6, which can introduce a number of different lines. I use this to get into the Con Sicilian, and the Taimanov Sicilian also goes this way. Anyway, I continue with the main move here, d4. He takes, I take. Now we get to that dividing point. So knight c6, the most popular move here is the Taimanov Sicilian. a6, the second choice, is the Con Sicilian. And then knight f6 is the third choice here. And this leads to the Scheveningen. I think it can also lead to other lines as well. But there's an important little point here that the main move is to just defend the pawn. You might wonder about pushing the pawn to e5, which attacks the knight and clamps down on the d6 square, so it looks attractive at first, but unfortunately black has the reply queen a5 check, just picking up the pawn. So the e5 push is no good here. So you develop the knight, defend the pawn, and now my opponent went d6, which is the main move, and now this is the Scheveningen setup with the two pawns here on e6 and d6. And this opening went out of fashion after the Keres attack was developed. That's the move g4, and that's what I play in this game. You don't have to play that way. You can play with just normal developing moves and get a typical Sicilian kind of position out of it, and it's still good for white, but g4 is maybe the sharpest way to play. And then the main move here is h6, slowing down that pawn rush, but you can also allow it to come forward and just go for a counterplay on the queen side with a6 and knight c6. So he goes a6 here. I push on with g5, which is really the main idea. I'm not sure about this bishop e3 move. It's like giving black a second chance to reconsider if he wants to play h6 or not. I think he might as well. If you're playing this way, you might as well push on with g5. He drops his knight back, and then I supported it with h4, which actually was not the top choice there. And in this case, you can play the move h4 a move or two later. It doesn't matter too much. This pawn is well defended. So you could develop a piece first and then throw in h4. But you're going to play this move. Typically, you're going to play this sooner or later, so you might as well throw it in here, I think. Now he goes with b5, going for a counterplay against my pieces on the queen side. And now here's a point where I should really play a slowing move. I should play a3 to slow down his pawn push to b4. This turns out is a really good piece where it's located. Knight c3, it's defending the e-pawn, which is going to come under pressure from the bishop here. And so it'd be nice to be able to maintain this. And in the game, I ignore that possibility. I let him push the knight away. He goes with bishop b7 immediately. So we're out of the opening book here. And so this move, queen g4, is just a little bit loosening, I guess. I play this without first defending the knight. Now, of course, queen g4 does defend this pawn, so if the knight gets kicked away, I'm still holding on to it with the queen. But I've given my opponent some free tempo moves. He goes knight e5. Queen has to drop back and has to stay in touch with his pawn because this knight might get chased away. And then he kicks the knight. And then right here, I looked at this with the chess engine. This was kind of an interesting juncture. I wasn't sure whether to bring my knight to c2 or to e2 or to a4. I don't know what I said. Either e2 or a4 are my choices. And the chess engine really likes putting it on a4. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. The knight is looking out on these dark squares where it's coordinating with the dark squared bishop. And I just wasn't sure at the time. During the game, I wasn't sure if it was going to get stranded out there. That's the danger it can run. You can run into putting the knight on the side, but it's just good in this case. So at this point, actually, black is equalized and is doing pretty good. He's kind of driven my pieces back with those two moves, and now he continues his development. It seems like, in the long run, black is still going to be a little bit uncomfortable because these looming pawns over here, taking a look at his king, and it's a little too open over here on the queen side, so he's probably not going to castle queen side. So it is going to be a little bit difficult for black to find a home for his king, but he's got enough piece activity that he should be doing fine here. And in fact, the chess engine likes black's position, so thinks black is better. Knight g3, rook to c8 now, very typical move, putting pressure on my c-pawn. I play f4 to kick the knight away. Knight drops into c4. And now I have to give up one of my bishops, trade it off for that knight. He's threatening this bishop. I don't want to just retreat and lose control of more of these pawns over here. So I have to take, and I take the knight off with the bishop that's not yet been developed. So this is still good. Here, my move rook c1 is not approved of by the engine. It thinks I should just castle here. Once again, a difficult choice to play in a game, because you're just putting your king in the firing line. But, the king protects the c-pawn and gets the rooks connected, puts the rook on an active file. So castling queenside really is the best move here. I brought my rook over here with the idea of trying to push this pawn forward and try and resolve the issues here on the queenside. Plays g6, and now I castle kingside. Having moved that rook, it makes no sense. Well, I can't castle queenside anymore, so it makes sense to connect the rooks. And I was thinking, well, I can kind of deal with these issues here on the queenside now that my king is over on the other side of the board. He places his bishop on g7, so starting to put pressure on the knight. So I play c3, both with the idea of defending that knight and trying to resolve the pressure on the c-file. But actually, it doesn't really help. He still has this c-file pressure. But I have defended my knight here, so it's pretty secure at the moment. But he can just continue to pile up on the c-file. But he first opens up another front, an interesting way to play. He plays h6. I come over here with the queen to d2. Oh, just by way of comparison, instead of playing c3, the chess engine wants me to play queen to d2 right here. Defend the knight with my queen, and also hold on to that pawn this way and not create those pawn weaknesses. So that's at this point I'm actually slightly worse after this c3 move. Black really starts to get an advantage. And let's see, he continues with h6, threatening to open up a second front over here. And he keeps the advantage through all of this. I play my queen over to d2. I'm trying to prepare the move f5, but I never managed to get it in. He exchanges first, and then he plays his queen to a8, putting more pressure on this weak c-pawn, e-pawn. And it's getting a little bit tricky to defend. I bring my queen up to d3, defending with the queen and chasing his rook away. The rook drops back to c7. But his knight is in a position where it can come in and add more pressure to that pawn. So this is one of those things that happens if you are attacking with your pawns. You throw them forward, and unless there's a breakthrough, they can sometimes get stalled and become targets. So that's another issue to watch out for when you're attacking. When you kind of lose that momentum, it starts to go downhill, and it can go downhill pretty quickly. Anyway, I dropped my knight back to f3. I'm just trying to organize my defenses over here. This is, at the moment, this is still defended, but he can come in here with knight at some point and add more pressure to that pawn, also maybe even getting a rook on it. But he had a different idea. It's kind of interesting. I didn't get the idea at all. He brought his rook to h3, and I thought, well, I'm just going to chase it away with my king, and then I'll be able to bring my rook over to the h-file and go after his king. So I thought this was good for me, but his idea was to give up the exchange here, and he's removed a defender from this pawn, so he could just grab this pawn. So he's got a pawn and a knight for the rook, so that's not too bad. A pawn for the exchange is pretty fair compensation, but objectively white is better here if I don't misplay this. So he comes in here with knight to c5. And the only move here is bishop takes knight. I just have to take that off. And if I lose that pawn, it's okay. I'm going to play on. I'm still up the exchange for the pawn, and his king can never castle. It may become exposed in the center of the board. So white is in good shape after the simple move bishop takes c5. Instead, I played the terrible move queen takes d6. So if you didn't see the game, you might want to ask yourself, what's so horrible about that queen d6 move? And I'll point out some of the good points. I wasn't just grabbing that pawn. I was also putting pressure on his rook, which is undefended there. So I thought, well, I can grab that pawn with tempo and then deal with things later. But he has a great reply. Okay, I'm giving the answer away now. I played queen takes d6, and he went in with knight takes e4, check, forking the queen and the king. And those are a bit, I guess it's a case where the positions of the king and the queen are a bit unusual. You don't see the king up on g3 and the queen out here all the way to d6. You don't often see them getting forked by a knight. But they were there, and there it happened. So anyway, interesting game. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Leave any comments you have in the section below, and I will see you again soon. Bye.